I've got to say, when multiple XRP chart analysts start predicting a God candle, it definitely grabs my attention. I mean, it's not every day you hear multiple experts using that exact term. The analysts I follow aren't the type to hype things up constantly. They only get bullish when it really makes sense. And let me tell you, the excitement is at an all-time high right now. You know, we're still in what you could call the calm before the storm. This feels like the moment right before Bitcoin makes its big breakout for a final parabolic move. And you know what that means? Altcoins will follow right behind. As for XRP, I think it's going to steal the spotlight for the rest of this cycle. If you're checking out the top 100 coins by market cap, there's no doubt it's number one right now since the election. And honestly, that's probably not changing anytime soon. What's wild, though, is how everything is perfectly set up, but hardly anyone is really paying attention. Well, except for you, you're ahead of the game here. But just wait. I've seen this happen before. Once the masses catch on, they'll be Googling Bitcoin and XRP like crazy, scrambling to get in. Suddenly, exchanges will be onboarding tons of new users who barely know anything about crypto. They'll dive in headfirst, throwing money at the most volatile asset class out there. People are chasing green candles right now, including XRP, because that's what's coming next. And honestly, it's kind of like a rite of passage. It's the cost of entry, sometimes jumping in at a not so smart time, but hey, that's how you learn. I mean, I joined back in late 2017, right before the parabolic tops. So I've been there too. What's coming next is a new wave of people jumping in, and some are definitely going to learn the hard way, but the smart ones will take more careful strategic steps. Oh, what an exciting day it's been. So much has happened and there's a ton to unpack. This video is going to focus heavily on XRP, and I've got some great insights to share. I've been checking out commentary and perspectives from some top-notch chart analysts. And while no one can predict the exact timing, because let's be real, no one can, there's a strong belief that something big is about to happen, and for good reason. Before we dive in, I just want to make it clear I'm not a financial expert and this isn't financial advice. Please don't make any buying or selling decisions based on what I say or write. Always do your own research. All right, as I'm recording this, it's 10:32 p.m. Central Time on Thursday, January 3rd, 2025. Just to give you a quick market update, XRP is sitting at $2.24 and Bitcoin is at an impressive $109,365. Check out this 25-hour chart. XRP hit $2.31 earlier, and Bitcoin even broke $110,000, peaking at $110,500. Crazy, right? Now let's talk about why this is happening. Turns out it's not the end of the world after all, despite all the chaos and doom and gloom predictions we've seen over the past few months. Honestly, people always think it's the end of everything, but guess what? It never is. Oh, and here's an interesting headline from the AP. House passes Trump's signature bill, sending it to the president's desk. All right, let me just start by saying I'm not here to dive into political debates. That's not what this channel is about. Whether you agree or disagree with me on politics, it doesn't matter. Seriously, we can still be friends, no problem. The only time I'll touch on anything political is when it directly ties into topics like finance, the economy, or crypto, stuff that's relevant here. And in this case, yeah, there's something worth mentioning. So whether you think this bill is amazing or terrible, it's all good. Whatever your opinion is, it's valid, no judgment here. But what I can tell you is this: the market seems to like it. And that's what we're here to talk about. So why does the market like this so much? It's pretty simple. Without this deal, most regular Americans would face major tax hikes, which could have seriously hurt the economy. That would have been a big problem. But now that it's off the table, markets are like, all right, great. That's not happening. The president still needs to sign this, which seems like a no-brainer. Chances are he's waiting to do it tomorrow, July 4th, Independence Day, KK Marika Day. But here's something else worth noting. The Dow just jumped over 300 points, and the S&P 500 hit a new record after a strong June jobs report. Remember when people were saying tariffs would destroy the economy? That kind of doom and gloom prediction feels pretty silly now. Look, like I said, that was never going to happen. So here's where we stand now. Back in April, people panicked and the market took a hit. And the S&P 500 dropped to around 4,950, though I can't remember exactly where the Dow was at the time. But fast forward to today, and we nearly hit 6,300. That's a massive gain in traditional finance. You don't see jumps like that often. For those who panic sold back then, well, that's rough. This is why it's so important not to let emotions drive your investment decisions. You can't outsmart the market, and betting against the long-term success of the US economy rarely works out. Here we are with the market surging, and it's fantastic. You know why? Because risk-on assets are getting the same treatment. Just like that, the stock market is climbing and crypto is jumping right along with it. Gotta love it. This is exactly the kind of environment you want to see if you're hoping for XRP to skyrocket in value. It's the perfect setup, no doubt about it. And speaking of things you want to see, just take a look at what's on your screen right now. According to Cointelegraph this morning, the global M2 money supply has hit an all-time high of 55.48 trillion. So will Bitcoin follow? Spoiler alert, yes, it will. It always does. For over a decade, Bitcoin has moved in line with the global M2 money supply about 90% of the time. Sure, there are moments when it seems out of sync, especially if you're zooming in super close. But in the big picture, Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market tend to follow the same direction. Here's the thing. Take a look at global M2, the white line here. It's been steadily climbing for quite a while now. Bitcoin typically lags behind by about 12 weeks, but when it finally catches up, oh boy, things are going to get interesting. That's why you see Bitcoin potentially heading toward $170,000 or even $180,000. If it hits those levels, imagine what that could mean for altcoins like XRP. Crazy times ahead. We already know that global M2 is at an all-time high and it's happening again. Eventually it'll peak and Bitcoin will keep following that trajectory. You know what? Bitcoin can still skyrocket even if M2 growth slows down. It doesn't have to perfectly follow the pace. It can break away. In fact, even if M2 is still increasing, Bitcoin has these moments where it goes completely parabolic and suddenly the usual correlation seems to disappear. That's just how wild Bitcoin can get sometimes. And it's done it before. And when that happens, alt season usually follows. That's what makes this so exciting. Tech Dev recently shared an interesting update with his 532,000 followers on Nex. He pointed out 4 key signals in Bitcoin's history, each one marking a major top. Right now, we're nowhere near one. But here's the exciting part. There are also 4 launch signals in Bitcoin's history, and every single one sent it skyrocketing. The latest, it just triggered. I get it. Not everyone's glued to their screens while diving into these crypto insights. Totally fair. I don't catch everything either, but this one's worth paying attention to. I've always got all kinds of video podcasts playing, but honestly, they're just running in my pocket while I'm out walking, driving, or whatever. But hey, if you can take a quick look at your screen, this might be fun to check out. See those bumps highlighted here? They go all the way back to the early days of Bitcoin, basically its inception. And now we're at this exciting point right before takeoff. Just one more thing I wanted to throw onto the pile for you all. Crypto analyst Crypto Michael is making waves again. According to him, Bitcoin is just 3% away from one of the biggest breakouts in history. His take, you're either bullish or you're wrong. Simple as that. If this happens, the entire crypto market could skyrocket with incredible speed, liquidating every short position along the way. Honestly, I have to agree with him. It feels like we're right on the edge of something huge. And here's the cool part. Crypto Michael has a track record of being spot on. Remember back in July last year, he was confidently predicting throughout 2024 that XRP was going to take off in a big way and catch everyone by surprise. And guess what? He was right. It sure did. He's pointing back to this symmetrical triangle that took almost 7 years to finally break out. So back in July, he didn't know when it would happen. And honestly, you can't really predict exactly when something like this will break out. You can see the patterns, understand what's in play, but timing, that's always the tricky part. I even talked about it back in July and said, guys, I don't know if that's happened today. And honestly, I was saying the same thing a year ago. Like, who knows? I can't tell you if XRP is going to break out today, tomorrow, next week, or even next month. Maybe it'll happen after the election. Turns out it did happen after the election. But here's the thing. I'm saying the same thing now that I said back then. I mentioned that this is the kind of environment where we should expect XRP to start moving. Of course, we did have to wait a few months after that point, and honestly, we might have to wait a bit this time too. But to be fair, I'd be pretty surprised if it takes several months again, especially with how things are shaping up right now. If you've been keeping up with my videos lately, you already know why I'm feeling this way. He totally nailed it with this one. On July 16th last year, he posted XRP historic breakout incoming. He said in all his years of trading crypto, he'd never seen a 7-year-long bull pennant. Pretty wild, right? He predicted we might be about to witness one of the biggest breakouts ever, and he was spot on. The thing is, a good analyst doesn't always try to predict exact timing because, let's be real, as I always say, even if you've nailed down a chart pattern perfectly, the timing can still vary. It might move faster or slower than it has historically. You just can't predict it with absolute certainty. But look at this. You can see it getting closer and closer to the apex of those trend lines. And boom, it broke out just like that. Pretty wild, right? Turns out he was spot on about it. Now, here's the latest from him this morning. The next XRP leg up is going to be extremely parabolic, slowly, then all at once. Consolidation is done. The launch is right around the corner. I've been following him for a while now, and he's always got this optimistic vibe, especially since we're in a bull market. It makes sense, right? Optimistic posts fit the mood. But here's the thing. He doesn't usually post with this much confidence. He doesn't say stuff like this all the time, so it really caught my attention. He's saying the consolidation phase we've been stuck in all year, ever since XRP hit its all-time high, is finally over, done, and now launch is imminent. That's a pretty bold statement coming from him, which makes it even more exciting. He's not saying it's going to happen today, tomorrow, or even next week, but this is the moment. Right now, you're living in the moment where it could happen any day, and it will. It's not just me who thinks so, and he's not the only one either. Check out this post from chart analyst World of Charts. This morning, they confirmed an XRP breakout and retest. They're expecting a move toward $3.00 in the coming days. And guess what? They don't think it's stopping there. Looks like things are about to heat up again. Time to get the party started, add some energy, and maybe even spike the punch a little. Here's a post from XR Punky talking about the XRP monthly candle shared this morning. According to them, we're about to break out of the low $2.00-ish range very soon with a God candle potentially on the way. If you're still bearish on XRP at this point, well, good luck with that. Honestly, I've never been more bullish on XRP for good reason. Posts like this just get me fired up. And let's be real, the term God candle isn't thrown around lightly by these chart guys. They only use it when it really feels appropriate, like last year and earlier this year when XRP was absolutely on fire. Well, guess what? This feels like another one of those moments. Everything is lining up, and it makes sense to say we could be on the verge of seeing another epic God candle for XRP. Here's a post from Mikey Bull Crypto, and guess what? He's definitely on board. In his own words, another God candle loading for XRP. That was just this morning. Starting to see the pattern here, folks? Check out this post from Crypto Wizard. XRP's chart is looking exciting. He's calling for it to move higher. And get this, the update came this afternoon at 1:45 p.m. It's wild how similar this looks to 2017. After the first big rally back then, XRP formed a pennant pattern before skyrocketing. And now it's doing the exact same thing again. Don't sleep on this. You might miss out. Here's the pattern he's pointing to. This is exactly what I've been talking about for years. I've mentioned it quite a bit this year and a whole lot last year. So by now you probably have an idea of what to expect based on past trends. In the last two cycles, XRP followed a similar pattern. It had an initial big pump, then moved sideways for about 6 months, which tested some people's patience. But just when everyone started to lose hope, it suddenly skyrocketed out of nowhere. What's interesting is that the same thing seems to be happening again. Back in 2017, if you look where I'm pointing, he's saying this is where we are right now. So technically, this is where we are on the chart, but you get the point he's making, is the same kind of moment. This part here, yet to come. Yeah, still ahead of us. Now, here's the exciting bit. When it comes to the dollar increase, the second pump is the real game changer. It absolutely dwarfs the first pump happened last cycle and the one before that too. That's just how it goes. History might not repeat itself exactly, but it sure does rhyme. So honestly, I wouldn't be feeling bearish right now. Here's a post from Crypto Insight UK this morning about XRP. They're keeping an eye on this setup as it could spark a bigger breakout or signal the start of a major move. The post highlights some key levels to watch: $2.30 and $2.55. Of course, everyone has their own take on which levels matter most for a big breakout, but these are pretty in line with what I'm seeing from a lot of analysts. Here's a post from the blockchain backer sharing his latest video. In it, he talks about how Bitcoin enters true expansion phases, like what we saw after the 2024 election. That was definitely a period of real growth. And during those times, it's true that altcoins tend to follow along. XRP, the star of the show, really stood out back then, But looking back, was that an actual alt season? Honestly, most people would probably agree it wasn't. Some might have thought so at the time, maybe mistaking it for one. And hey, I get why. It's easy to see why people leaned into that idea. Well, it really depends on how you define it. There isn't some official rule book or institution out there that defines what it is. You can't just look up alt season in Merriam-Webster and get a clear answer with set parameters. It's all pretty subjective. That's why I try to give people a bit of grace on the topic. Some analysts were saying, yeah, it's alt season. And I was like, well, maybe, I'm not sure. I guess we'll see. Honestly, I'm not much of a chart guy myself, so I wasn't entirely convinced. Looking back, though, it definitely wasn't. Here's the exciting part. There's usually one last big parabolic move up, like we saw in early 2020. Think about Bitcoin's peak back then, whether it was April or May. It doesn't matter exactly when, but that was pretty much the top. Now, if it becomes clear we're in alt season, and trust me, you'll know when it happens. There's no mistaking it. That's typically a strong signal that Bitcoin has already hit its peak. Historically, that's what we've seen. After that, the altcoins have their moment to shine and they'll hit their tops too. Basically, when the whole market feels like it's on fire, that's usually a sign the party's almost over. I just want to give you all a heads up about something. Now, I know some people might not like what I'm about to say, especially those who are nearer to crypto. Sometimes when you're just starting out, you can have a little too much confidence and think you've got it all figured out. I get it. People might call me names or say, I don't know what I'm talking about. They'll say, what do you mean? The money's flowing in. It's just going to keep going. Hey, that's fine. Sure, it might sting a little. I'm only human after all. But at the end of the day, I'm going to stick to what I believe and share what I think is important. People can yell at me on the internet all they want because, let's be honest, isn't that half of what the internet is for? It's all good. I get it. The internet has its purpose, and I'm not denying that. But hey, I'm here to give you a heads up because that's just the right thing to do. So if we see something big brewing again, we'll sound the alarm. You know how it goes. People will start predicting $300,000 Bitcoin. Personally, I don't buy it. It feels super unlikely to me. That said, the blockchain backer brought up a great point. One way to tell if we're in Bitcoin's final price surge is by watching dominance. Even if Bitcoin's price is climbing, if its dominance is dropping, especially if altcoins are going wild, that's a huge signal we're nearing the end of the cycle. When all those things align, Bitcoin going up, dominance falling, and altcoins exploding, it couldn't be more obvious. That's the classic recipe for the cycle's peak, folks. It might stick around for a bit, but that's when you know you're in the thick of it. You know, it's not like we need to panic or anything when that day comes, but by then you're really getting close to the end. Here's something interesting the blockchain backer mentioned. If Bitcoin dominance isn't dropping, it can mean rethinking what's likely to happen next. To me, it sounded like if that happens, he might even consider the idea of Bitcoin climbing higher than expected. Now, right now, he's predicting Bitcoin could top out somewhere between $120,000 and $135,000, which is exciting to think about. He's super optimistic that the best is still ahead. And when it comes to XRP, he believes it could hit double digits. Things could get absolutely wild. Here's the latest update from a Postman chart analyst on Zoom and the XRP order book. Once XRP breaks through $2.32 and $2.60, we could see new all-time highs happen quickly. Another analyst agrees that in the short term, there's a great chance we'll be back in record-breaking territory, meaning $3.40 plus for XRP, and when it moves fast. Remember November? You were probably there, right? It felt like nothing was happening and then suddenly things took off. Well, this time might be even faster. Sure, we'll think it over. If we see a bigger price shift in terms of dollars, even if it happens over the same time frame as the post-election period, the movement will feel faster. That's because the changes will be much more significant this time around. Ooh, here's an update from Postman chart analyst Ali Martinez this afternoon. Looks like XRP might be forming an inverse head and shoulders pattern, which could lead to a 15% breakout, bringing it to $2.65. Pretty exciting, right? And it's not just Ali. There have been several analysts pointing out similar trends today. Well, okay, one of them was from yesterday, but you get the idea. It's all fresh and relevant, and they all be wrong. These are solid analysts with great track records, after all. I think they've got a point. Chart analyst Steph is all about crypto, and he's been consistently sharing updates on this symmetrical triangle pattern. He's confident a breakout for XRP is coming soon. Sure, he doesn't know exactly when it'll happen. No one does, but that's totally okay. Honestly, I find his post pretty solid. He keeps it simple, sharing the same idea, but staying consistent. And he's not wrong. I can't hate on that. It's true. And here's what Postman chart analyst Lee Gray Crypto has to say. XRP's short-term target is to close above $2.35. A bullish close above $2.42. That's super bullish. These are just a few short-term targets, and Lee remains really optimistic. He's confident we'll see double-digit price action for XRP this cycle. Honestly, there's never been a better time to be an XRP holder. Some might argue November was great, but right now, it's more obvious than ever. If you weigh the risk vs reward, it's clear this is an incredible moment in history for XRP. What a blessing to be in crypto, especially holding XRP. Personally, it's been the best financial decision I've ever made. If you're like me, you're probably thinking the same thing. Hey, everyone. If you've been in the crypto game for a few years, you've probably seen what happens when you hit a bullseye. Crypto can really pay off. The key is patience and accumulation. Honestly, I've been there too. For a while, I was in the red with XRP and most of my crypto investments. But that's totally normal. I even expected it because I knew it was all part of the accumulation phase. After the insane bull run in 2017, the market cooled off, which is exactly when I started getting serious about building my portfolio. Through 2018, 2019, and into 2020, it was a roller coaster, mostly downs with a few ups sprinkled in. And you know what? That was okay. I understood the market and trusted the process. So if you're in that phase right now, don't sweat it. I've come to understand market cycles over time, at least the basics. And honestly, that's been enough. I just held on, kept accumulating, and sure enough, another cycle came around. Suddenly, what I had was worth so much more than what I initially paid. Now, I'm on my third cycle, and I can tell you it works. If you're new to this, don't stress. Market ups and downs are totally normal, so try not to panic. Just take a deep breath and remember, it's all part of the process. Oh, and just to be clear, I'm not a financial advisor. This isn't advice to buy or sell anything. Seriously, don't make decisions based solely on what I say here. That would not be a great idea.